thanks for tuning in. As the nation celebrates the Kargil Diwas, Major Gaurav Arya is joining us live to take us through how the nation remembers the sacrifices of our heroes. Good morning, Major Gaurav Arya. Take it away. Talk to us about how important this day is for the country.
No, absolutely, Samiksha. First of all, wishing all our viewers a very, very happy Kargil Vijay Diwas. It was today that all the Pakistani intruders were thrown out from the heights of Dras, Kargil, Mashko, we remember Tiger Hill, and so many other points which became legends in India. Places that Indians had never heard before are now famous, and today we remember all the heroes who laid down their lives in the service of the country. I knew some of these heroes personally, and I look up to them even today. They're a source of inspiration. Today is a big day in the history of modern India because after 1971, this was the war that India fought. There were no wars in between 1971 and 1999. And it is today, in 1999, that Pakistan was once again defeated by the might of the Indian armed forces. And I also think that this day is extremely important because the nation, bereft of heroes for a very long time, came to know names like Captain Manoj Pandey, Captain Vikram Batra, Grenadier Yogendra Singh Yadav, Rifleman Sanjay Kumar, and so many others. Samiksha.
Well, absolutely. Major Gaurav Arya, talk to us more, that because this day, if we talk about it, it represents sheer grit and determination that led us to the victory. If you could talk to us more about the heroes of Kargil War for our viewers who are also watching this broadcast.
No, absolutely. Kargil had 4 Paramveer Chakras, and from 13 Jackrif, we had 2 in fact, and what a great unit 13 Jackrif is. We had Captain Vikram Batra, and we also had Rifleman Sanjay Kumar. Captain Vikram Batra, of course, got the PVC posthumously. Then from the Grenadiers, we had Grenadier Yogendra Singh Yadav, who got the Paramveer Chakra. And who can forget Gorkha Rifles, Captain Manoj Pandey. In fact, these stories of valor and heroism are so relevant. In a nation that worships film stars and cricketing heroes, suddenly you have these unknown faces on television, and they tell a story of a modern India, an India that cannot be pushed. Samiksha, an India that cannot be bullied, that cannot be stared down, and all of them very, very young. Vikram Batra would have been in his early 20s. Grenadier Yogendra Singh Yadav was all of 19 years old when he stormed those heights at Kargil and threw out the Pakistani intruders, taking so many bullets on his body. And who can forget Rifleman Sanjay Kumar? So all these heroes of modern India, and then there were Mahavir Chakras. And I remember one of them was my senior in the academy, Major Padmapani Acharya of 2nd Battalion, the Rajputana Rifles. A word for this unit, while all the units played a stellar role, they played a fantastic role. But for special mention, I would like to name 2nd Battalion, the Rajputana Rifles. When there is one officer casualty in a unit, it really shakes up the unit. And I can tell you this as a veteran, as a former officer of the Indian Army, even if there is one casualty in a unit, it shakes the unit, and especially if it's an officer casualty, because this is an officer-led army. It was 2nd Rajrif that lost half its officers.
Yes.
Half its officers. And these youngsters actually stormed the heights of Kargil at pitch black nights, 14,000 to 17,000, 18,000 feet above sea level, minus 20, minus 25 degrees. They were going blind. They were going absolutely blind because there was nothing to see except for the tracer bullets fired by the enemy and except for the shelling of the enemy. And yet they continued. There is this immense sense of self-belief that their stories, bring to us. And this immense sense of doing something for the country. When you tell a 21-year-old that he's going to be defending India, then it takes him to a different level altogether. And this is something that we must not forget today, Samiksha.
Well, absolutely. Major Gaurav Arya, we have Gursimran and Zeenat also joining us live from Jammu and Kargil. If you could talk to them about, how the nation is celebrating, particularly in Jammu and Kargil, how the day is being celebrated.
Zeenat, good morning. You are at Veer Dham. You are at Veer Bhumi. And I would like to ask you, Zeenat, what is happening in Kargil exactly? what is happening? I'm sure the army is there. Of course, the army is there. And there would be people around, tourists around. What is the mood in Kargil?
Gaurav, I'll ask my VJ for those to show you the visuals from the Dras War Memorial, where the events will begin in some time from now, but we are witnessing the guests have almost arrived. We are seeing also the GOC Mountain Dew has arrived, Major General Nagendra Singh. Then we are also witnessing the people, the officers from the Air Force, the various dignitaries are here, and the Wreath ceremony will begin in some time from now. Although Dras as well as Kargil is witnessing events for the last 3 days continuously. In the morning, we also witnessed a bike rally coming from all the way from Ladakh to Dras Memorial to pay to the war heroes. Are standing at the heroes, the Kargil heroes, and also the Kargil martyrs who lost their life while defending the country. India lost more than 700 soldiers in this 3 months war, but Pakistan suffered a huge setback because more than in thousands the dead body on the ground when India was attacking, Indian soldiers were attacking the Pakistan intruders. Although earlier the Pakistan said that they are not, it's a terrorist attack, but later on, many of them that yes, they are the people from the Pakistan army, and it was the brain behind the brain of Parvez Musharraf was behind this 1999 Kargil War. Although this was a small, it was fought in a very small duration, but it is remembered because those days the Pakistan has chosen the heights of the Kargil, so that way strategically they were having the important locations, and when the Indian soldiers, it was becoming difficult for them to climb or to carry their supplies and other ammunition. So despite everything, they were able to reclaim all those posts. They recaptured all those posts which were taken by the Pakistani army. We have witnessed, whether we talk about the Battle of Tololing, we talk about the Batalik, Kaksar, or we say these are the peaks, as my VJ for those who showing you that yes, these are those peaks where the war was fought for almost 3 months. And we all know, Gaurav, you come from the same army, that how difficult it is for the Indian army then to for this kind of war when you have the temperature, the weather was bigger enemy, the Pakistan intruders were enemy, the kind of arms and ammunitions they were carrying. But despite everything, their bodies were packed in the bags. They were evicted from the Indian soil, and today is a day when the Indian Army, the Air Force, the locals, the tourists, everybody has come together to pay homage to all those brave hearts who gave their life while defending motherland India.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Zeenat. I'll go to my colleague Gursimran, who's in Jammu right now. And Jammu holds a very special place, Gursimran. Before I ask you my question, I'll tell you, all our viewers, Jammu holds a very, very special place in India for the simple reason that I don't think there is any family, any house from which there isn't a soldier. Jammu has a long history of people serving in the Indian Army. So, Gursimran, what's the mood like in Jammu, and how are people of Jammu celebrating? How's the Army celebrating? How's the Air Force celebrating, Gursimran?
Yeah, good morning, Major Arya, and you have rightly mentioned that Jammu has a saga of sacrifices that the people and the brave hearts from the Jammu region have made. Right now, we are at the Balidan Stamp, and I'll request Sajivan to show you the visuals. These brave hearts of the Indian Army, they have lined up to pay tribute to the valor of the Indian Army that the brave hearts have shown in 1999 by recapturing those heights.
I think we have lost Gursimran there. I'd like to go back to Zeenat. I'll go to Zeenat now, and so Zeenat, you mentioned about Kargil, and you very rightly brought out how difficult it is to fight in such situations. I'd just like to tell the viewers that do you see the mountains behind Zenat? It was these mountains that the Pakistani army had occupied, and in front of Zenat there is a Highway 1 Alpha. What the Pakistanis were trying to do is cut off Highway 1 Alpha to isolate Siachen Glacier. That was the plan. And they kept on firing. They did not allow any vehicular movement to take place, any troop movement to take place on this road. And this is what the Pakistanis thought, that, by occupying these heights at Kargil, in the Dras region, they would cut off lines of communication and supply of the Indian army and ensure that Siachen was isolated. And like Zenat very rightly brought out, this was the brainchild of General Parvez Musharraf. He had twice before given this plan. He had twice before given this plan to Benazir Bhutto and once to the Director General Military Operations of Pakistan. But it was shot down by various people. But when he became the army chief, this was his pet project because, as the legend goes, in 1984, when India took Siachen Glacier away from the Pakistanis, there was a rush to get to Siachen, and we reached Siachen Glacier first. And it was at that time a very young Captain Sanjay Kulkarni from 4 Kumaon Regiment who planted the tricolour on Siachen Glacier. Until then, India has been on Siachen Glacier. Pakistan does not occupy 1 inch of Siachen Glacier. There was a brigadier there, a Pakistani brigadier who felt absolutely humiliated by this, and that brigadier's name was Brigadier Parvez Musharraf. When he became Chief of Army Staff of the Pakistan Army, he launched this operation to retake Siachen, which he could not. Zenat, I'll quickly ask you a question and then I'll go to my colleague Gursimran here. So Zenat, you're saying that the GOC of the Mountain Dew is going to come very shortly, and the program of paying remembrance, wreath laying and respects to the martyrs and those brave hearts who fought in the Kargil War will start. Do you see any families, do you see Veer Naris, do you see any families of those who laid down their lives or people who fought in the Kargil War? Do you see them also there?
Gaurav, as far as GOC Mountain Dew is concerned, he's already here. He has already reached a while back. Then we see the Veer Naris and also the families of the martyrs. Even the war veterans are here, who are here to pay the homage, to the respect to the Kargil heroes and also the fallen soldiers. Meanwhile, I'll ask my Vijay to show you the peaks to our viewers, that these are the peaks where they fought the war in 1999. In fact, they are the peaks. This is a Tolo Link range, and it takes you even to the Batalik in Kargil and also Kaksar. This is the entire sector that was involved in 1990 war. If I ask my Vijay to show you the Tiger Hill, that is where Captain Batra fluttered tricolor in the air, and he said this slogan that the Dil Mange More, which is still being remembered by everybody in the country, that he was looking for more. And then if you talk about the other heroes who laid their life while defending the way they fought bravely, and these intruders, they were evicted from the soil because this was one of the fierce battle. And if we cannot forget the contribution not only of the soldiers, but yes, Bofors played a bigger role when it comes to the Kargil War. It was a game changer because Bofors were used to evict the Pakistani soldiers, because these Pakistani army men, they had captured the heights, the vacant post, which was completely against the agreement. When the locals observed the suspicious movements, because let's talk about the Ladakh scouts, they also played a bigger role when it comes dealing with the Pakistani intruders, the locals who received the information, and particularly they also observed the suspicious movement, and then they informed the army that they have observed. Because earlier one of the porter of the Indian army, he recovered 2 of the cigarette packets made in Pakistan, and he went to the CEO and said that this is what he has found in the Mashku Valley. And then the operation was even launched in the Mashku, because he was the first person, Yash Mohammed, who observed the suspicious movement of the Pakistan intruders after recovering 2 packets of made in Pakistan cigarettes. And that gives an indication that the Pakistan army was planning their move from everywhere, and the only aim was also that, because this is the entire Dras sector, so Dras, Kargil and Ladakh, that takes you then to the Siachen, to cut the supplies and to get the control of the Siachen. So that was a bigger plan of the Pakistan, but before they could do anything, they were evicted and they were killed. Their bodies were in the bags.
Absolutely,
when the
Zeenat.
Indian Army as well as the Air Force. Let's talk about the operation of Safed
Yes,
Sagar that was launched by the Air Force in 1999.
Yes. Zeenat, there's a very special program on our viewers. Gursimran, I'd request you to stay with us. Viewers, yesterday I had the honor and privilege of interviewing and speaking to a war hero of Kargil. You know, I joined Officers Training Academy in 1993. And at that time, there was a young, handsome, dashing officer who was the adjutant of the Officers Training Academy in Madras. It used to be Madras those days, it later became Chennai. This officer was the one who was responsible for the discipline in the academy. This officer is a war hero. He was the one who trained us. I thank him again on behalf of SS 57, my course. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Colonel Lalit Rai, Veer Chakra. Jai Hind, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to this special program on the occasion of Kargil Vijay Diwas. Today I have a hero from the Kargil War. And before I ask him the first question, let me tell you that the officer that you can see in the frame is Colonel Lalit Rai, Veer Chakra. And when I was a young cadet in the academy, he was the adjutant of the academy. Sir, a very warm welcome to our show, and thank you on behalf of SS 57, sir. You made men out of boys.
Thank you, Gaurav. It was a pleasure and a privilege.
So my first question to you is, sir, you know, we've all read the citation for your Veer Chakra, sir. But I want to know the emotion behind the citation. What exactly happened on those hills of Kargil? What exactly happened, sir? Your unit is an iconic unit, one Paramveer Chakra, one Ashok Chakra, sir. And many, many such gallantry awards. But what happened, sir?
Well, you're talking about my citation. I think the biggest citation that I would have got is the endorsement I would have got from my boys who fought with me in war. More than the citation and the Veer Chakra. It was firstly a great privilege to lead such a fantastic battalion like the 1st 11 Gurkha Rifles. It's a great privilege. And my father also served, and he was also commissioned into the same battalion. That's the best and the beauty of it all. However, you know, I took over the command of the battalion when the war was already on. And for me, it was a huge challenge because I was commanding 17 Rashtra Rifles, which is a counter-terrorist operation-oriented unit. And the colonel of the regiment offered this battalion because the previous commanding officer had already proceeded on premature retirement. And there was only twice he was officiating as the commanding officer, and the battalion was in the thick of battle. So I quickly took up this challenge. And you can imagine to lead in battle. I mean, the boys don't know me because I've not served in the battalion. The chasers don't know me. The officers don't know me. I don't know the terrain. I don't know what is the situation because I'm just being lifted in a helicopter within 24 hours from the counter-terrorist operations into the conventional war over here. And there was so many of the information was totally ambiguous over there. The situation was ambiguous. So for me, it was a huge challenge with so much of mixed feeling and, you know, apprehensions. At the same time, Josh, that privilege of commanding the battalions. But one thing I knew, to command a Gurkha battalion in war is everyone's dream. And with that absolute confidence, I led the battalion. And I would say it was a culmination of all these activities, the command. And of course, when I took over the command on 2nd of June, my plan was on 2nd of July. I got this to crawl, meet all my guys, go to the faraway post, show my face and tell them I am the commanding officer and I will be leading you into battle. And we don't have to worry, we will do it together. And things like that, you know, to bring up the josh and the camaraderie amongst all my boys. I did that for 1 month. And within 1 month, we launched this attack on Kalubar top. On that absolute cold night of 2nd July, I can never forget that. With the two of my companies leading. And because my company commanders, that was Bravo and Charlie company, Major Christopher Correa and that time Major Ajay Tomar, excellent company commanders. And because of the good work done by these company commanders and the young officers who were there with them, and all the troops, I suppose being the commanding officer, it was my privilege and it was my good fortune that I got a good command and we succeeded in the battle. So hence,
Sure.
that explains the award that I
So,
got.
first hand about the legend of Captain Manoj Pandey, because we have heard so much, we have seen references in movies, we have read the citation. What was he like, and what exactly did he do, sir? We know, but I know, sir. I have read that, I've studied that, but the Battle of Kaluba Top and other things also, sir. This entire legend of Captain Manoj Pandey, what was it about, sir?
See, that's why they say, no, I still remember in the drill square when I was a cadet, Gaurav, our Ustad used to say, when we made a mistake, of course, he used to jokingly say it, but it almost amounted to the same thing. He used to say, Hira dur se hi chamakta hai. He caught you there, So that is such a absolutely correct statement because someone who's honar, you can actually spot him from far away. And Manoj Pandey was one such young officer. Physically, he was not very tall. He must have been around 5'5" or so. But he really walks tall amongst us as far as courage, valor, sense of responsibility, maturity is concerned. Now, this young boy, when I joined the battalion, he had already been into a part of an operation. In Jubar Hills, where the 70 Brigade had launched one attack along with the other battalions like Garhwal and Jatalai and one Bihar, Alpha Company was sent with this young officer to help these people for this attack because their troops were not adequate. So they had taken few companies from our brigade also and from my battalion. Alpha Company, Manoj Pandey was there. And in the Jubar attack, he very successfully managed to sort of make a firm base for the further attacks. But of course, that attack did not succeed. And, because of so many other reasons, that's another point. But he had completed his task. And from there, then he was brought back to the battalion. So when I came, he was part of the company with the Bravo company with Christopher Correa. And he was the platoon commander. And I remember that night, that fateful night, moonlit night, when we were chopping our way up, the fire was so intense. I'm telling you this, there was ripping everything left and right of me over there. I'm seeing my boys falling down and can't do anything about it. We had to keep on moving up steadily. Stopping would have been absolute disaster because when you're under fire and you stop, then you tend to stay there. So I was exhorting my boys. Every of my officers were also exhorting. In between, we were saying, Jai Mahakali, Aya Gurkhali, and we were moving up. But these youngsters, I tell you, they were a delight. Some people said, no, the youngsters, they fought the battle well and things. I said, not well, they did extremely well. So at one point of time, when we were absolutely pinned down because of extreme amount of fire that was coming from Kalubar top and bunker area, which was slightly below that area of Kalubar top, there was a crossfire. And in the absolutely murderous crossfire, we were caught. And now I was in a huge dilemma being the commanding officer when we were around 600 yards short of the objective. What do I do? Do I proceed ahead? If I do that, if all of us get killed, tomorrow history is going to be very unforgiving and people will point fingers and say, useless fellow. He was an idiot. He got himself killed and he got his full command killed. Do I stop? If I stop again, tomorrow in history, people will point out and say, what a stupid man. Had he just pushed ahead, he would have done it. But why did he have to stop? Because of that, a good opportunity went by. So, either way you buy and the tremendous responsibility on your shoulders, it's really killing. But at the same time, it is very empowering too, when you realize that there's so much at stake. It's not only your regiment, it's not only your army, it's the nation. Because tomorrow we are beaten back, they'll say Hindustan ki fauj, ka humne ye kiya. So Captain Manoj Pandey was very close to me. There was so much of bombardment. They were helter-skelter. I was out of communication from both my company commanders. I caught hold of Pandey and I said, there are 4 bunkers which are onto our left, which is creating mayhem over here. While with the rest of the people, I proceed up, you proceed this side and make sure you finish these bunkers. This young officer Without a second thought, he said, yes, sir. He collected about 34 boys of his from the platoon, and they proceeded up. What I learned later was, when he went up, it was not 4 bunkers, there were 6 bunkers. There were 2 more echelon behind. And all having those deadly machine guns and that AD gun, 14.7 mm,
Sure.
firing 1,000 rounds a minute. It was deadly. And at night, believe me, Gaurav, I still get nightmares. Those tracer bullets coming out of those AD guns, tracer type of bullets, and from the machine guns, from the MMGs over there, it's screaming and coming like this at you, and you can feel that hot air pocket of that bullet going past you, and your sides of your jackets are getting torn to shreds because of the fire that's coming. It was a terrible nightmare. So Manoj Pandey went up. When he saw the other 2 bunkers, which are slightly echelon behind, he asked Havaldar B.V. Dewan to go and finish those bunkers. And Havaldar B.V. Dewan, very, very brave guy with a lot of guts and initiative, he charged those bunkers head on, because there was no time to spare. They were spewing death from that place. He managed to finish those 2 bunkers, but in the bargain, he also got a spray of bullets, and he got killed in his action over there. A brave way to go. Captain Manoj Pandey, with fire and move tactics, what he did was they managed to throw grenades through the loopholes by crawling under the machine guns, and they finished 3 of those bunkers. The 4th one was still firing. And by this time, he had got some bullets and he was bleeding from his side. And the boys told him, sir, forget it now, you rest, we will do it for you. But this is where, is the difference between a real person, that sense of responsibility, that sense of duty. He said, the commanding officer has given me the privilege of commanding you guys and taking this. So it will be my proud privilege that I take part in the last one to finish it and then give my victory sign to the commanding officer. Mission accomplished, and operation, code word Kukri, that was the success signal. And he went there, he crawled close by, but when he got up, took out the grenade and threw it, his reaction, his reflex action was very slow because he had lost a lot of blood. He was weak, hungry, and very cold, I suppose he must have been very weak by that time because of loss of blood. The Pakis saw it and they fired, I think, a burst of 4 rounds that went and hit him straight through the helmet. I saw that helmet, through the helmet, and absolutely blasted his his head off, skull off, and he fell down dead. But just when the impact happened, some of my boys tell me he shouted out, "No chodno," and then he collapsed. No chodno means don't leave them.
Don't leave.
Even till the last, dying breath, look at this boy, he had that fighting spirit. He said, "No chodno." And our boys took out the kukris, the grenade found the mark, but everyone was not killed. So they took out his kukris and started slaughtering these guys, and the complete bunker area was captured. And had it not been for a singular act of valor, bravery, responsibility, and all these, I don't think, we would have been able to do what we did later on. So I think
Absolutely.
The only sad part is, he got the Paramveer Chakra. The only sad part is it was posthumous. I really wish that boy was alive. I have great respect for him and his valor.
So my last question to you, sir, is, we have heard so many stories about Gurkha valor and Gurkha pride and the long list of awards and recognition which various Gurkha battalions have, earned for hundreds of years, not just in Kargil, but hundreds of years. My question is, sir, the famous Khukri, if you can very briefly tell us, sir, some story or some anecdote about how the Khukri, when it was unsheathed, frightened the Pakistanis.
Why only Pakistanis, Gaurav? It comes out right down from the Burma campaign onwards, when the Japanese also, they used to really shiver. And there is a legendary story about the samurai warrior and the Gorkha with the Khukri.
Absolutely.
I believe both of them were facing each other. And they
Yes,
said,
sir.
you're a samurai, you swear by it. Your kukri, you swear by it. Let us see what can you do about it and how can you prove that. He had chopped the mosquito into two pieces with his samurai sword and he put it back over there. Then it was the Gurkha Johnny's turn. So they said, Gurkha Johnny, do something. He did something like this. And everybody said, what? What happened? Everybody started smiling. Can't do much. And even the samurai guy was slightly, smiling in a weird manner. They said, you haven't done anything. The samurai is better. He said, okay, just ask him to nod his head. so these are, of course, these are legendary stories, of course. But I'm telling you, the kukri in a Gurkha guy's hand, I mean, we do everything with it. And it's like an extended arm. And while chopping the heads, I've seen it in real life also. Our boys don't use that full action of a jhatka like that, It's just something like this. And the head is off. It's lopped off. That's as good as that. So, and even when I had to sort of urge my boys up, and when I talked to them before the actual war and the battle, what did I tell them? One of the most telling points I told them is, look, Gorkha ka khukri ka dhar. You can never let it down. You must let the enemy taste the edge of the sharpness of your kukri. And our forefathers have done it. That's why we've got a name. So we have to continue with that complete legacy of ours. And our boys didn't look back. They didn't look back.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely, sir. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. And it was, again, a privilege and an honor to speak to you, sir. It was a privilege and an honor. Ladies and gentlemen, with Colonel Lalit Rai, Veer Chakra, the hero of Kargil. And, of course, he tells us stories about the Gurkhas. He told us how Captain Manoj Pandey fought with the Pakistanis and how he was inducted earlier on, Colonel Lalit Rai, when there was, he was just pushed into battle without any sort of briefing, or he did not even know the troops very well. He didn't know the area, but he went in, he did his duty. And I think this story of Colonel Lalit Rai Veer Chakra is not just his own story. This is the true DNA, the true essence of the Indian Army. Thank you for joining us, and Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Gaurav. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
And of
Thank
course,
you very much, sir.
My heart goes out to all those brave hearts who laid down their lives for our nation. They did a great job, great service, and I don't think anybody can repay that debt. So my salute to all of those, irrespective of regiment.
Sir.
Thank you, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Jai Hind, sir.
To the special program, 23 years of Kargil. Today, ladies and gentlemen, is Kargil Vijay Diwas. And we see images being beamed live from Kargil. And this is where the GOC of the Mountain Division is there, and all the officers and men of the Indian Army paying homage, paying tribute. The two soldiers marching in front are the pilots. The officer at the back will now be taken, and there you can see them climbing the stairs. And this is the wreath laying ceremony, where the officer will go and place the wreath. This is the wreath that will be placed as a mark of remembrance, as a mark of respect to those who laid down their lives in 1999 in Kargil. The wreath has been laid now. A salute. The officer will salute. We have guests on our panel today, and we have Major General Dhruv Katoch, Director, India Foundation. He's live from Delhi. We have Group Captain Augustine Vinod, who's a defense analyst. We have Major General Rajan Kochar, who's a defense expert, and he's live from Delhi. Sir, Jai Hind, and a very warm welcome to the special show, sir.
Jai Hind.
I'd like to first go to General. I'd just like to go to General Dhruv Katoch, please, sir. Sir, today is Kargil Vijay Diwas, and congratulations are in order, sir, to everybody, entire Indians wherever they may be living, sir, India, abroad. Today is a great day. What is the significance of Kargil today, 23 years after it happened, sir? I'd like to ask Major General Dhruv Karot, sir, what is the significance of Kargil? Do you think it is still significant?
Thank you, Gaurav. Yes, I think today is a very, very significant day. And I think it is something which must be carved into the minds of all Indians, which is why it is celebrated as or commemorated as Kargil Vijay Diwas. You see, primarily why I am fascinated with this particular episode of our history is when you see movies which have been made, the Hollywood movies by Tom Cruise, the Mission Impossible series. Kargil was, to all intents and purposes, Mission Impossible. It was something which the Pakistanis had planned after their fiasco which they faced in the Siachen Glacier, when they could not evict the Indian troops from the Saltoro Heights. And that was the time when General Musharraf, he came to the conclusion that if we hold the heights, nobody can evict us from there. The Pakistanis made a few very strategic miscalculations. But amongst them, this was one of them, that they could never be evicted. I was witness to those events. I was in service that time, though I didn't fight this particular war. And I know how difficult this particular operation was. But something which was actually termed as Mission Impossible actually became possible because of the bravery and heroism of the officers and men of the armed forces of India. It was a joint effort. And I think after having lost 523 brave hearts, 1,000 plus had been injured, we achieved this victory against all odds. And this is something which I think we need to remember, that even under such adverse circumstances, when the enemy has taken you by surprise, we can still get back and snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. This is a great learning. Of course, there are other learnings, and we must never allow ourselves to be surprised in this manner again. But it cannot take away from the great deal of heroism, the spirit, the josh, the courage, the valor. The words are insufficient to describe what the soldiers of the armed forces did for those 3 months before victory was finally achieved. Gaurav.
Absolutely, sir. Now, we have Group Captain Augustine Vinod, and I'd like to ask him, sir, a lot has been spoken about the Army and the way Army conducted operations. But the Air Force had a fantastic role to play. The way Operation Safed Sagar was launched, the way the Air Force, with pinpointed accuracy, smashed the morale out of the Pakistan Army, sir. The professionalism with which the Indian Air Force conducted itself, I'd like your views on that, because this is something that India needs to know again and again, every year, every day, the role of the Indian Air Force in the Kargil conflict. Over to you, sir.
In the history of warfare, the manner in which we conducted the Kargil operations at that time. Two things which stands out very, very clear. First, we had our, instructions from polity very clear that LAC should not be crossed, especially for Air Force, which operates in a wide and vast area. It was like fighting with hand tied behind your back. We had not, by that time, trained to fight not crossing the border or LAC or things like that. So that was one major challenge for us. And second, the young India needs to know, in any war, we contain the war in a geographically limited area, which in my opinion has never been done earlier. So these two things needs to be understood loud and clear by everybody. I was that time in Mirage 2000 Squadron, Battle Axis, which did all the damage. So I'm very fortunate and thankful to God that I was part of such a unit, an elite unit which conducted such operations. Initially, Mirage 2000s were not brought in. Initially, MiG-21s and MiG-27s were doing the job. That is when, if you remember, Nachiketa got his engine flamed out and he got captured, and squad leader Ajay Ahuja was killed, who went to look for him. In fact, just a couple of days ago, I met Nachiketa and we, spent 2-3 days together thinking, talking about it, etc. Then came my squadron, that is the Battle Axis came in.